Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mr. Hicks Podcast. We are here getting it in once again, time and time again. And today we are talking about Colorado Buffaloes football. And the reason we're doing that, because quite frankly, everyone is talking Colorado Buffaloes football because they beat the runner-up in the national championship game, TCU. They beat them 45 to, I believe it was 45 to 42. And very few people, and when I say very few, I mean very few, outside the state of Colorado, actually picked the Buffs to win this game. Not only did very few people pick them to win this game, they were more than a 20-point underdog to lose this game. Basically, people thought they were going to be thrashed. It wasn't even, the people didn't think it was even going to be close. And then you have Shedeur Sanders come out and throw for 510 yards. He had 4 receivers go over 100 yards receiving. 4 different ones. Colorado last year only had 3 receivers go over 100 yards in the entire season. Had a 100-yard game. And 4 receivers have over 100 yards in one game. One game. Now, mind you, did the defense play great? No. They had 42 points scored on them. Of course they didn't play great. But the fact that their offensive line played much better than anybody expected. The fact that Shedeur Sanders, after playing at Jackson State, which apparently nobody in the national media had any respect for, played with incredible poise. He was so accurate. He was accurate in the flat. He was accurate across the middle, on the deep ball. He actually threw some perfect balls that were just dropped. He could have thrown for 5-6 touchdowns in this game. That's how accurate he was. He had 2 touchdown passes that were just basically dropped by very good receivers. So he had an amazing Heisman-like performance. Honestly, that game from USC and Buffalo is going to be one of the hottest tickets in college football. You're going to have 2 first-round quarterbacks are going to be playing each other. It's going to be a great game. Travis Hunter played over 120 snaps, played not just a package on offense, but he played a full game on offense, catching 9 passes for over 110 yards, I think it was. So, and then had what was, I think, like a game-saving interception. It was such a game changer, and it was an amazing play where he's playing man coverage on the slant, comes off of his man. I wish people could understand how difficult what he actually did to maintain leverage on his receiver, to understand the situation, to know the read in that situation, to come off of the slant right he's covering, be able to turn and get in front and not just knock down, but intercept that rail route going up the seam by the running back was an absolutely unbelievable play. And then for him to turn right around and play offense like he was in high school. It was really an incredible performance. Dylan Brooks, not Dylan Brooks. Is it Dylan Brooks? Something like that. Dylan Brooks, a freshman running back, catches for over 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was just an amazing offensive performance that no one can take anything away. And of course, the people are going to, TCU wasn't bringing back the same game. I don't care who you do that to. That's wild. That in a weekend where most Power 5 teams are playing cupcakes as they're like a preseason game, because college football, they don't get preseason games. For Colorado to do what they did with all the pressure, playing an away game at the runner-up to the national champion in a hostile environment in Texas, over 100 degrees on the field, what can you say? It was an amazing performance. But the main reason I actually wanted to do this show today was because of the flack that people were giving Deion Sanders. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that he's doing this. I'm surprised that it's happening this early. But I'm not surprised that he's catching a lot of heat. I don't even think it's heat. I don't think you understand that he doesn't care. He is who he is. He is one of the greatest football players of all time. He did not get to where he is by listening to people tell him to tone it down. You people have been telling him not to talk so much and not to be Deion and not to be flashy and not to be primetime probably his whole career. But you know what? He's been talking and he's been backing it up for his entire football life. And now he's got kids behind him believing the hype and believing in that team. They ain't gonna listen to you. Why should they? Believing in themselves is what got them to where they are. All it does is add fuel to the fire for people that want to prove doubt is wrong. But one of the things I want to talk about is like Deion caught a lot of heat for the way he started his tenure at Colorado when he essentially, just walked in, and he's really big on social media, records everything. He knows young people, connects with young people really well. He knows that's how young people really connect to your program is through their phone and through social media. So they just flood social media with everything behind the scenes that they can. And this was really risky for him to do this, but he came right out and said it. He said, I'm bringing my luggage. Some of y'all might as well go ahead and hit this portal because I'm bringing my own luggage and it's Louis. So basically saying, y'all not good enough to be on this team. Y'all were 1-11 last year. I looked at a film of this team. Most of y'all just aren't good enough to play here. And he wasn't wrong. There's a lot of people that are they're upset. Like, oh, the what about the children people? I totally understand it. I have a bit of a behind the scenes look at this myself because Coach Sean Lewis, who is the offensive coordinator for Colorado, left Kent State to go be the OC there. I left a head coaching job at Kent State to be the OC at Colorado. My son is right now at Kent State. I have met Sean Lewis, shook his hand. He recruited my son. You're our number one running back. And he recruited my son, and we're ready to go there. And then Sean Lewis up and leaves, and then we don't know what's going on. We don't know whether my son's got a scholarship anymore. So I understand the feeling as a player that I don't know what's going to happen. As a parent of your kid who's been recruited by this school, and now you're late in the game, and you don't know whether your kid's going to be continue to be recruited by the school anymore. At Colorado, I know you weren't. So that's a tough situation, and I'm not saying that that's nothing. I am saying, though, this is supposed to be Division I football, and when you are endeavoring to do something like this, some things aren't going to go your way. It's part of the game that I don't like, but it's part of the game that I understand is going to happen. And one of the main reasons you have to do this if you're Deion Sanders is Colorado doesn't have any historic advantage when it comes to recruiting. So you're not Texas, you're not Alabama, you're not Miami, you're not USC. You don't have that kind of brand loyalty, that kind of brand following that kids grow up wanting to play for Colorado. There's no geographic advantage that is for recruiting, as in there's no blue chip players in the state of Colorado. There just aren't any. If you got the best players in Colorado every year, you're going to get destroyed in football every single year. There's just not enough good ball players in that state. So Deion did what he had to do. All those players. So what ends up happening over time in the years where you're winning 3 games, 2 games, 1 game, any good players that you have, they transfer out because they know that they have value and they're going to go play someplace where they can win games and not be one of the 2 good players on a really bad defense. So they're going to go to contribute someplace else. So what you're left with is a bunch of players that were on the fringe that were the last guys for you to recruit every year. Guys transferring down from other programs, guys that have issues. Because here's the deal: when your team is bad, no legitimate Power 5 player who's a real contributor needs to come play for you. Like, if you're getting recruited by Colorado, you're not also getting recruited by Alabama. If you're getting recruited by Colorado with a bad team, you're not also getting recruited by other good teams. You're getting recruited by other bad FBS teams, Power 5 teams, and also probably the top tier of non-Power 5 teams. So like your teams like Kent State, so your MAC teams, your Sun Belt, stuff like that. So there are these guys that are fringe. They might go Power 5, they might go Group of 5. So what ends up is Colorado ends up with a lot of those type players. If you're getting recruited by MAC and Sun Belt and Coastal, like your ECUs and Appalachian States and stuff like that, And then Colorado comes along and says, hey, you want to come to Colorado? Well, that's a Power 5 team, and you're going to be playing in a Power 5 conference. So most players, when the opportunity to do so, would rather play for a Power 5 team than a Group of 5 team. The difference is Appalachian State is going to play ECU next week. Colorado is going to play Oregon. It's the same player. But when you're playing at App State, you're playing other players that are about the same level. When you go to Colorado, that same player is now going to have to play USC-like players, going to have to play Washington-type players, going to have to play Oregon-type players. And the difference between the top and the bottom of the G5 is really not that high. They're all recruiting the same kids. The difference of the top and the bottom of the Power 5 is night and day. It's not even close. The guys that are going to Alabama and the guys that are going to Vanderbilt are not close. But the thing is, though, the guys at Vanderbilt are barely in the Power 5. They're getting run over. So if you're Deion Sanders, you've got to know that and know that these guys that are on this team are just not good enough to be competitive in the Power 5. And he used a rule that was not the spirit of that rule. For those of you who don't understand what I mean, is a lot of times when a team comes in, when a new coach comes in, it's because the coach was bad and the team was bad. So a lot of times, all the kids leave. Between the guys that are graduating and the guys that are transferring out, a lot of players leave. So what would happen is the coach would get hired, and he'd have to come in late and try to throw together a recruiting class. And then he wouldn't even have enough players to field an 85-man roster. So you'd be like, great, now I got to go out there. Everybody else has got depth. They got 85 players at least. And I'm going out there with 45, 50 kids. So a rule was put into place to say, in your first year, because this happens all the time, you can take as many kids out of the transfer portal you want. So to fill out rosters. And it sounded like a great idea. That was the reason for that rule. What Deion did is he walked in the door and said, most of y'all can't play. Go ahead and get in that transfer portal and see what your options are. And then he started taking kids out of the transfer portal. And a lot of coaches got butthurt about that. They're like, that's not. Pat Narduzzi and Matt Rule, who they're going to play this week, came out and were vocal about them not liking what Deion was doing. I will say this, at least Pat Narduzzi put his name on it. A lot of these guys will say stuff, chirp behind the scenes to people that they know or connections they have in the media about, oh, this is terrible what he's doing. What about the kids? This is not the way you do it. And you know what? This is not the way we do it, Pat Narduzzi. The reason why you can't stand what Deion's doing is because you know it's going to work. And you know that you can't do it. You can't. You don't have the charisma. You don't have the cachet. You're not a Hall of Fame football player. You're not somebody that connects with kids. You don't have a bunch of connections to other Hall of Fame players. You're not him. And Deion Sanders is him. Deion Sanders is going to connect with kids in a way that you know that you can't. So does Pitt run a nice program? Yeah, Pitt runs a nice program. They give you some. They'll fight for the. They'll win their side of the ACC sometimes. They'll get a few good players here and there. Pat Narduzzi is still mad about losing Jordan Addison a couple of years ago to USC after he won the Bolitnikoff Award. He's mad because he spent his time developing an undersized player, makes him a great player, and then dude splits and goes to USC. You know somebody like Deion Sanders can reach right over into your backyard, right off, not just into your backyard, but in your roster and take your kids. He don't even have to take your kid. He just got to kind of like mention to the kid's high school coach and go, hey, that guy's pretty good. If he happened to be in the transfer portal, I might pick him up. Ain't got to say nothing to him. Because Deion can do that. Deion is that dude, and you're not. And so these middling coaches who really haven't had an amazing effect on their conference, they may be running good programs and not great programs. They can see somebody like Deion Sanders coming in here and being a problem. And not only is Deion going to be a problem for places like Virginia Tech or Pitt or what have you, he's going to get guys to transfer off of very good Power 5 teams. When he got Hunter to go to Jackson State, that shook up the whole college football world. that you get the number one player in the country to go to an HBCU. That's what Deion can do. That's the effect that charismatic leadership can do when done responsibly. But a lot of people who don't have the ability to do that, they're going to be mad. They're going to be jealous. Coaches like Pat Narduzzi and Matt Rule are mad because Deion didn't have to pay his dues. There's a way to do things that 99% of coaches have to do. You have to go be a GA. You have to bounce back and forth. You have to go coach at places that no one's ever heard of. You got to coach at Portland State. You got to coach at Acadia. You got to coach at Montclair and Marist. You got to go coach at places that no one's ever heard of, making almost no money, and work your way up and make connections and struggle and move and the head coach gets fired, and then let me beat the bushes to see if I can find an assistant coaching job somewhere so I can feed my family. Deion didn't have to do that. He walked right into an HBCU, got a head coaching job, was successful there, and now he's walking right into Colorado, and he's already showing success here. And for people that try to make it a black-white thing, I don't think it's a black-white thing so much as it is a you didn't pay your dues thing. Does that tend to be stodgy old white guy? Yeah. And they especially hate it when you're loud about it. When you are doing your thing and you're being successful and you didn't have to go the route that 99% of the people have to go to, and you're successful, and you're not shy about telling people about your success. Oh, the establishment is not going to like that. Because here's something else that's going to happen. Let's say that you're Texas A&M or you're Arkansas, who I believe was ready to hire Deion Sanders when he went to Jackson State and ended up not doing it. And you're going to start looking at your coach sideways. Like, hey, you've been here for 3 or 4 years, and I ain't seen no hide nor hair of recruiting or championships or that great presence or social media presence or anything like that. And Deion Sanders comes in here from an HBCU and has got these great players on there. He's got Damani McClain. He got the number one corner from the class of 2021. He got the number one corner from the class of 2023. He's out here getting great players. We don't get players like that. You've been here 3 or 4 years. He's all over. I can't turn the TV on or turn on social media without them talking about Colorado. How come nobody's talking about Mississippi State like that? Nobody's talking about Arizona like that. Hey, maybe Arizona State should have picked up Deion Sanders, but they didn't. They didn't take the risk. Was it a risk? Yeah, it was a risk. I'm not even going to lie about that. But there's not only the risk to what you do is a risk of doing something. There's also a risk of not doing something. And watching what Deion Sanders did, those places that had a chance to hire him have got to be kicking themselves. They've got to be. Because what he could have done if he could have done the same thing. There was nothing special about Colorado because it's Deion. He could have done that anywhere. Deion could have done that at Virginia Tech. He could have done that at Arizona. He could have done that at Arizona State. He could have done that at Houston. All these schools that you're talking about that had openings, he could have done that anywhere. And you would have reap the benefits the same way that Colorado is right now. Because all those kids are following him because he's him. All those coaches the thing about that, Sean Lewis was a head coach already. He was currently a head coach. And he left the head coaching job to go to be the OC for Deion Sanders. How many guys can do that? How many people can go, hey, you're in a good situation right now. You've actually got some national notoriety for how good your offense is. I want you to come bring that offense to Colorado. Let's get some great athletes behind it. Let's put it on a national stage, and let's really showcase what your offense can do. I'm going to make you a Power 5 head coach. Let's come do it. Come with me. We're going to make it happen. How many people can do that? Only a handful. And in this particular case, I think there's only one. But he is out here doing it. You mad, bro? It's my time. Take it easy.